Welcome to Nothing Less Than Extraordinary, and an amazing podcast dedicated to ordinary people like you and I that have done extraordinary things in our life. I want this to be a human celebration of the human struggle in this journey called life through its up and down and twist and turn. May their life stories inspire you to reach your greatness and to reach your full potential. It is going to be a lot of fun, lighthearted, and raw in all its form. We will cover topics such as love, depression, divorce, parenting, woman in business, anxiety, addiction, self-love, forgiveness, and so many more. I am super thrilled and honored to have you here. My name is Ridon. May you have a great listening. So, welcome everybody back tuning into Nothing Less Than the Extraordinary. And today I have an amazing guest with me. So, for those who are actually new on my podcast, welcome with us. And I want to be able to welcome a really, really bright woman and somebody who I also admire as well. So, Boa Ngo-Duy.
Yes.
I might screw that up.
But no, you didn't. You're great. You're good. This is my name. So thank you for inviting me on this. I'm really, really excited, and congratulations again on that podcast. You were really excited about that and you move forward with that. It's really exciting for you.
Thank you so much. I got to say, I love your surfboard in the back. I love the shirt with the white and the stripe. Like there's a little flash of woman mix men kind of power into it. I love it. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's a little bit a while now. It's on the wall, but it looks good at least. So
I always wanted to do surfing. So which ties well into the topic that we're going to bring up today, which is basically women in business and the mindset. So it's going to be a really, really interesting, and I love to hear from you. And I want to do a really brief introduction of you. So you are the first generation to be born outside of Vietnam with your family.
Exactly.
And so we're going to cover a little bit in the terms of the mixture of the two culture, the Asian culture versus the Western culture. That's always an interesting topic that I always want to touch base on. And you are also in the men's world, which is working as an engineer, as a project manager. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Oh, so definitely I'm working in a men's world still, even though there's more and more women. And in my company compares to the other one I had before, yeah. I believe we're more women project engineer, but we're still in the world of a lot of men working there. So we're gradually making our place. And in the company I am now, I have the feeling that they're giving us that space, and they're really, taking us for our skills, our competence. And I don't feel that that's a difference. So we are working, although with clients and with contractors and things, that's where we can feel more the difference. But yeah, it's you have kind of both sides. Sometimes they're really nice to you because you're a girl, but sometimes they don't like it because you're a girl also. So you need to kind of how do you say that in English? It's just to keep your ground. You need to keep your ground solid. You know what you're talking about. So it's just to kind of be confident about it and then just go with it. And with the years, in my personal case, is just that I proved myself along the years on how disciplined I am, how I can get the work through, and how competent I am with my skills. And then at some point you get the respect, but it's a little bit sad that you need all that. I feel that you need a little bit more time to prove yourself for that. But, it's just that you work hard and you go for it. So you don't have a choice to just do it to go through. So that's how I did on my side. And for now, it's working really well. And that's good. In my project right now, it's doing good.
Oh, that's fantastic. And it's really interesting because I would imagine, like, I remember also when I first joined working in a men's kind of type of environment. It's not always easy, but at the same time, I see it as a challenge. And me, like, okay, today I look more like a girl, but I'm kind of like you. I'm kind of half girl, half boys. I used to be like, when I was growing up, I was more of a tomboy. And then think at the age of 21 that I start turning more as a girl. So
You
I
took
can
your time
walk
too.
both.
Took
I
your time.
think I'm more like in a female's shaped body, but with a man's mentality.
Yeah, exactly. It's just that sometimes you need to kind of play the game, and then the thing is like when they do comments, it's just that you need to stop that right away.
Yes.
There sometimes you're too nice, you let it go because you're not sure what it means, or it's
Yeah.
just that there's that side of work that I need to deal with that I'm pretty sure my coworker, my male coworker don't need to deal with that I just need to struggle sometimes with those comments, or I don't know, on your body, on what you're doing, or little comments about, oh, you should smile today. That
Mhm.
what does it do with my work? I can do my work if I want to smile. If I don't want to smile, just let me be. So that's little those things that you need to be able to let it go. Of course, you're not going to change the world by just educating them every day. It's not my work there. So you need to be able to let things go.
Yeah.
But sometimes when it's really disrespectful, or just a little bit, or most of the time is more borderline, whereas the limit is right there. They're playing with it. So
Yeah.
that's where you really need to keep your ground, and you just
Yeah.
say in a way that they need to understand that it won't pass. So it doesn't happen all the time,
Hmm.
but it definitely does. And it happens definitely to women and not to men. I'm pretty
I
sure.
think they have like different challenge and stuff, and it's really hard to be in a men's where I guess if I'm looking back and how I actually made it work for being in a male kind of dominate, for sure there is definitely a difference between male and woman, like no particular difference, like no particular preference for me, for sure. I think there's certain things that we could live without to make our work and our integration a little bit more easier. But I think as long as you got to pave your way wherever you go, for sure. So you just like you said, go with what you know, trust yourself, and don't be afraid to voice your opinion, which is something that I want to cover in a little bit with you as well. Like coming from an Asian background, that must not be something that is easily done. I mean, I know for myself, it was really hard. It took me many, many years.
Yeah, I believe in that Asian culture because I related in it's more of my experience in my family, but you can see that it's in the generally in the Asian culture where people are more quiet, they're less loud, and we're not usually the loudest. And when comments that are not that great coming your way, is usually what I've seen when I was younger, is more that they're taking it, they're not arguing, they're not doing anything, they're taking it. But going back home though, you can hear about it. That it's just that they don't step up for themselves. But
Hmm.
it's really frustrating at some point because it's just that you're accumulating something. You feel that somebody is either taking advantage of you, or um, going over you, or so you I grew up that way. I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about too. And I learned that way. It's just that don't look them in the eye, look on the ground.
Yeah.
So it's when you grew up and then you're, in my case, going to work in the men's world, it's a little bit more. It took me years though to take. I'm saying all that as if I went into there and then it was fine, but it was not at to start with. I had struggle and I had argumentation and I got confronted and things like that.
Hmm.
And or I got step over, definitely step over, taken advantage of
Hmm.
everything. So, but then I just learned through it through my relationship, through work, through my friendship too.
Hmm.
So is really some. I just didn't want to have those accumulation, those resentment, those frustration. You could feel them. So it's just at some point, how could you liberate yourself of that? So the one that's in the past, and you just need to either go confront that person if it's still actual, or you just let it go. But
Hmm.
in the future, You need to really just stop that person and know that when you feel that something is not right, when that comment doesn't make you feel good, there's something there that even though what they say seems nice, but that tone is not right quite there. You need to kind of take a step back and think about it and just see how far that can go and just speak up for yourself. But then definitely like my mother, like my aunts, everybody that I've seen from close to me, I've seen many people being taken advantage of. So it's not something that I wanted to continue that way. I wanted to move forward from that. And, you know, even in relationship, it's just something that I've been in relationship where I got stepped over, and it's not something you want. It's not something you're comfortable, and it's not something that is really nice to keep going. So it's just that the moment I start to step up for myself, it was really, really stressful. I remember shaking afterwards, but it felt so great. It feels liberating, and you take more and more confidence out of it. And like your opinion matters, your voice matters. So if you're not great, you can just say it, and there's ways to say it too. You don't need to go overboard and everything, but there's way to say it. But it makes you definitely feel better afterwards.
Yeah, and you hit a really good point. I think, and this actually goes for those who are actually more kind of like the extrovert. They have like a really easy time communicating their needs and their concern, but the introvert, they kind of like resort, kind of shy and stay, you know, to a corner, off in a corner, and often are scared to voice their opinion. Me, I'm like a combination of both. I'm more of an extrovert, but internally, like within myself, I'm more like an internal introvert. I do a lot of self-reflections and stuff like that. So I think for a good 20, 25 years, I would say, I often get comments from different people and from my supervisor, like especially like you lack initiative, or like why are you too scared? But I'm never scared. Like it just comes across because I'm trying to be respectful mostly, and I don't want to step on people's toe. I don't want to take I don't like the spotlight, so I never quite know how to maneuver around that. So it always come across like you're more passive, you're inactive. So when I get these feedback from my supervisor, I'm thinking to myself like, so it's interesting because I know that I'm not lacking initiative, but it comes across that way. So I can't really blame them because that's how they perceive it, which is an interesting from the Western world versus the Asian culture, the Oriental culture, which is that we often were told as women to kind of stay back. Your opinion doesn't really matter. Like the men kind of have to be the forefront, and you just sit back, sit pretty. And
we're growing up witnessing this, right? So it's in the households like this.
Yeah.
And even though in my family I grew up with mostly women, but even though you can see that, you can feel that, and then to your point, is like on my side here, I'm an extrovert, but though when there's something though that it's when I'm comfortable though, there's no problem at all. Even in front of strangers, I don't have any really big problem. Although when it comes down to something that that's not working with me, like there's a situation I'm uncomfortable in, I got confrontation with somebody, that's where I retract myself, and I kind of don't know what to do. That's I've seen that. I have images of that, of what I've seen growing up. Like, and I'm the first generation to be born here, so my French and my English kind of grew up almost normally. I was a little bit late into French, and English is a little bit later, but like my mother, she learned it almost at the same time as me. So in her side, it was also the communication side was not that easy too, because even though the confrontation is not easy, and to express yourself is not easy too. in the language, if you want to express yourself, it would not be even easy. So
Yeah.
there's adding up something more
Hmm.
that I didn't really have, but all of that, it's definitely a mix
There's a lot
of
of layers.
yeah, there's a lot of layers to it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I would say, like, I'll ask you as well if you could give some advice for people who may be struggling about finding their voice, especially in a work setting. It could be like in a male dominated setting, but it could also be just in general, like those who have a hard time speaking out. Like, I want to hear, like, if you have some tips for them, like 2 or 3 tips that you can maybe suggest to them, like, how can they work on getting themselves heard, to listening to their own needs and kind of respecting that. Like, how would one start?
Okay, so I'm really not a pro at this. I'm still processing. I'm still learning at this. But for me, on my side, what worked is that I started to listen more, to trust more that nudge that I feel when something is, because I was so in my head that even though that nudge was there, that something is wrong, I was trying to kind of intellectualize everything and rationalize and saying that it's, yeah, but it might not be his intentions. It may be you, or how he said it's not really, you think that's really mean that way. But the thing is, like, when you feel it, is just is it is something wrong. So you can maybe, and you could be wrong, but at least if you voice it out
Mm-hmm.
and you approach that person one by one, it's just
Yeah.
way easier.
Yeah.
Not in front of the team, of everybody. Or you can go to a person
Mm-hmm.
that you trust and talk to him about it. Or I say to him because I'm working with mostly men, but I had in my boss in my mind, and then just to discuss about it, and then to approach that person.
Mm-hmm.
And my bosses are really nice about that, though. They're really great. So I can approach them and just say, okay, this situation happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't live it the same way I live, but they kind of have that compassionate side that they can understand it. And it's just like, you know what, just try it this way, and just approach them with this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Good at.
even though if that person is really not trying hard, they
Mm-hmm.
can just make up excuses
Mm-hmm.
and dismiss you. That's really frustrating, though, but at least they would hear you, and they would know that you would be able to speak up to yourself if anything happened in the future. So
Mm-hmm.
usually it doesn't happen afterwards. So in my experience, so usually it's, you just need to do it one time.
Yeah, I think this is a very important point. I think, like, the point that you want to be able to start off with is, I would say, it's everything is all about practice, right? I think when you don't like conflict, most people don't like conflict. This is something that everybody struggle with. Some people really enjoy conflict and enjoy drama, and those are rare. Like, they're the 1% of people, but most people don't really like conflict. So if you don't like conflict, my suggestion would be learn to get comfortable with conflict. And conflicts, you have to change your interpretation of what conflict is. For a long time, I always seen conflict as something that is bad, but now I don't see it that way. I see conflict as an opportunity for growth, an opportunity to really tackle what needs to be addressed right away, so we can move on and really bring the project somewhere much better, and so that we can have every single input. So I do this often. Like, my number one rule is, I am so fearful of conflict. I hate conflict. I run away. I'll hide under the desk if I have to. This is something I have did for the longest time, for my whole entire life. And so nowadays, I my number one rule is, when there is conflict, when there is uncomfortable situation, I never let myself run away from it. I hate it. I stress about it. So I would say, like you said, talk to a confidant that you trust, who have like a perspective that's outside of your workplace, that, so they're not too close, so that they're impartial. Definitely talk to your manager or supervisor that you feel like there's a good relationship, so that they can give you good advice. And definitely approach the person. Pick a good timing, not when they're in a bad mood or things are going really chaotic and you want to bring this up. It's just more load that they can't handle. So definitely gauge for the right timing and respectfully address it to them. So what you would tell yourself is that, you know what, even if this issue doesn't get resolved, what you're doing is that you're actually letting the person know. So you can't ask a person to
Exactly.
change if they
Mhm.
don't even know what's wrong, because maybe, you know, they made a comment, they weren't even aware that it actually affected you, they had a bad day, or they used to
Yeah.
say these comments to women all the time and just never thought anything about it, but for you it does affect you, so you need to be able to voice it out. And even if the person doesn't change, you did something very good for yourself. This is something I've learned over time, is that you have now taken control and you said to yourself, I'm worth something. And this is a self-respect for myself. Even if the outcome doesn't change, I am going to say what bothers me. And I leave it to the person to deal with the situation. I've already did what I have to do for my part. Now the rest belongs to them. So you're putting back the responsibility where it belongs.
You're completely right on that. It's just that the important thing there is not really to resolve or to make that person change his mind,
Yeah.
is really for you to learn to speak up for yourself. And that's a sign of respect and self-love for yourself. And that's where also you get a boost of confidence right there, because you know that you can step up for yourself,
Mhm.
and you let that person know that it won't work with you. And if that person is decent to a little, it won't happen again.
That's it.
And you kind of resolve the issue. If you didn't, then you just like, you let that go. It's
Mhm.
not your issue. It's not about you. It's only about that person. And the second, to your other point, is that you're saying, um, you were, I just forgot it.
It's
But
okay. I have that all the time.
no, but the other point, I completely forgot it. I'm gonna loop it back. But it's really a good point, that's just to be able to speak up for yourself. That's the important thing, because that's how it makes you feel good about that situation. After you say it, it's
Mhm.
where you feel better. You
Mhm.
don't really need that person at some point to acknowledge you, or you depend on that person. But if you are able to voice it out, I
Mhm.
think that's a good thing for you.
Yeah, I think the consequence that people need to be really aware of when you don't voice your concern and your need is that you eventually you self-hate yourself. You start disrespecting yourself. You start to lose confidence in who
That
you
you're
are.
not worth it.
You're
That
not
you're
worth
not worth that. And the point, I just
it. It's okay.
remembered. Yeah, so it's about the conflict. So the thing is, like, I changed my view on conflict too. I
Yeah.
always thought it was something to avoid, but
Mhm.
it's not true. It's just that we're so different. We don't have the same upbringing, the same environment, the same people. We're so different, and we don't have the same view on things.
Yeah.
So also that's where you can learn, like you're talking about growth. So that's where you learn to understand the view of the other person, when you can put yourself at his place or that person's place.
Yeah.
It's where you can understand him more, where
Yeah.
it come from. So
Yeah.
it's just that anger or that frustration is kind of dim a little bit, because you know where that person comes from.
Yeah, you have a better
So
understanding, absolutely, of the person. So, two things here is definitely you want to be able to gain perspective into having some kind of compassion for the person.
yes.
So, you want to see where they're coming from. I mean, you want to be able to have a good judgment of the situation. You know, so you never assume thing. I think one of the bigger problem that I see people doing is always jumping into conclusion too fast, too quickly. So what I do is I always check, like, you know, and you say it in a way and you talk in the I. I'm sure some people hear it often. I don't say you did this to me. It's like, you know, when this happened, you know, when you
It
were
makes me
making this,
feel that way.
yeah, it made me feel this way. And I could be wrong, you know, and maybe it's just me who interpret, or you know, I didn't understand it properly. I just wanted to check with you.
Yeah.
Can you let me in? And so that way you're not approaching them where you're attacking them. Nobody wants to be attacked. I think when you come off and you're just like, you did this to me, nobody, like, already they shut down. They don't want to hear you. And that same rule applies all across, whether it's with your boss, whether it's with your partner, whether it's with your family. When you approach it in a loving manner, this is something one of my therapists had mentioned to me, is that when you approach in a loving manner, like to try to understand and put yourself in the other person's shoe. And also Carnegie also, Dale Carnegie also said it, but winning friends. So influencing and winning friends. So making friends, right? Is you gotta be able to respond to the person's need. You gotta be able to make them feel heard first, to understand where they're coming from before you can actually expect them to actually listen to you. So, because everybody is thinking, what am I going to get out of this? So,
yes, that's true.
Right?
Yeah, I remember that book. I read it. And the thing is, like, when you're assuming why they're acting that way, you're completely projecting yourself on them. So it's just not on your side. You're not even being open to their side of the story. You're just saying you're assuming that way because you would act that way because of that. Then they must have done it that way because of that. And then you're just closing off any discussion right there. Yeah. So of course, assuming is not a good thing. I've learned that through the years too.
Communication is key to so many things. And first, definitely change your definition of what conflict is. Try to find a way to open up the channel of communication. And instead of saying, I want them to be able to fulfill my need, it's like, how can I fulfill their need first? And then, when they feel better, then when they feel understood, when they feel heard, I can guarantee you almost 100% of the time, they'll come back to you, they'll respond. This is my approach when I have my employees. I never go to them and go boom, boom. Like me, one thing is I don't care about titles and stuff like that. So everybody's equal to me. I treat everybody pretty fairly, same rules, whether you're up or down, I don't care. It's
the same respect. Yeah,
same respect. So you're, at the end of the day, you're just another human being, just like you and I. Of course, when I'm actually around like somebody who's higher up, it makes you nervous, but internally, I'm like, I really don't care. But outside, it comes across like I'm scared because it's the Asian in me, like where you're taught to respect authority. So it's like, it's a natural learned thing that my body had kind of like programmed myself.
Oh my God, yeah.
I don't understand. And I always make joke with my friend, like I'll be like a couple of foot in the door talking to like higher management, and then the other foot is like trying to run away, but inside.
But it's so anchoring you. It's just, if people don't know, in the Asian culture, hierarchy, it's so important, and it's really, really, really important. But the thing is, like, you need to, in that culture, is like you need to pay respect for higher, if you can project on the professional side, it's a higher management or older people,
elders,
elders. Mm-hmm. But then you can see also the opposite side where they talk down to you. They talk down to you, like it feels like you're kind of a lesser person because of that. It's really that. It's a real thing. So you grew up in that, and then you project that into your adult life in the Western countries. So it's not the same thing at all. But you need to kind of you need to kind of relearn all that. So it's different.
It's definitely like a new rewiring. Although internally, I already know, like internally, nobody really intimidated me. But culturally, as a child, my body still register the difference. And I'm like, I don't understand why this person would even make me nervous, because there's nothing for me to be nervous about. But I've been like this for so many years that I have to reprogram myself. So anyway, so coming back to the fact that if you actually, I would say the one thing to be really mindful about is that don't accumulate things where you don't say it. It only gets like this big monster, and also it eats you up. And then you actually start hating yourself. You don't respect yourself. And for a long time, I always used to make an excuse, like it doesn't bother me. But it's a lie. I'm telling you.
It's a complete lie. It's a complete lie. It is true. But it is, you're trying to make yourself believe that, but that's not true at all. Yeah. But that's the thing. I've been doing that for years. But the thing is, like, you thinking that you don't, it's not important. But the thing is, like, you're looping on that. You don't even realizing it. You're looping on that, or you talk about it, and then it's your energy just wasted in that. Yeah. You don't want to spend your energy on those things. You just want to get over it and just pass to the next good thing.
The one thing that I practice is just when you're talking to the person, if that person makes you nervous, I would say always assess the situation. Don't just go, like, there's some people who are completely like bulldozer. You don't want to be in conflict with them. No matter what you say, it just won't pass. So if you need help, like through a supervisor to communicate, definitely do that. But unless you see there's a bit of an openness with the person, I would always suggest to go and talk to the person kindly, pick the right timing for them. And when you feel better about yourself as well, like if you're nervous and you don't have to do it right away, like,
Too frustrated also.
Yeah, process it, think about how you're going to say it. Like, I like to write things out, like what I'm going to say, and then rehearse it in my head. And then the next day, I'll say it. Because for a lot of time, if you're having things like this, you'll know you need to learn to voice opinions about yourself in terms of need. If you're telling yourself like, oh, no, that doesn't bother me, but then you're venting it to people, like they did this and they did that to me. And then like the next time you're more like revengeful and you're like kind of like trying to plot things against them.
That's a sign.
Hey, it's a sign. So like, it's okay to just start there by acknowledging, okay, I need to work on this. And it's baby step at a time. Trust me, it takes me over 20 something years to get there. And every time I did it, I have perspiration in my hand. So I set myself very small objective. I remember negotiating for a contract that's very important for me. And there was somebody who I didn't really, the vibe in the company was not good. And that person was very, very well spoken, very well liked, but I saw something that didn't work out. And I normally don't talk bad about other people. It's one rule that I have is no rumor where I work. Like, I don't like it. I don't promote it. And when somebody does talk about rumor, I put a stop to it right away. I change topic, or I'm like, you know what, guys, it's not for me. I'm not for that. And I'm glad also, like where I work, it's something that they do not want. So, and I always bring people back, like my employee, when they forget, sometimes they need to vent, and that's okay. And then I just gently bring them back. But if you're struggling and you're talking about it, you're saying it doesn't bother you and you don't know how to deal with it, just start with the first base, which is like, I'm not comfortable with this and I don't know how to go about it. And then go get some help, like talk to a good friend who has good skill, like look up at somebody who's good at confrontation and how they go about and doing it.
Write it down. Write it down.
Write
so
it down.
It helps you put your ideas why into that. It's just that sometimes you feel like you're all over the place and you don't pinpoint exactly what's the situation. Just write it down. That helped me a lot too.
Yeah, and keep it simple. Keep it simple. Keep the expectation low. Don't
and really direct.
Yeah. Keep it
the
low.
Expectation low too. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Keep the expectation low. Just say like, look, I'm getting this out of my chest. And when you're talking to the person, like imagine you're not even seeing the person. Oftentimes what I do, I just visualize, something that I enjoy and something happy. And then I'm just saying, like, I'm talking to the universe. I'm like, this and this happened. And this is how I felt. And I would like it for the future to not be able to experience this. And I'm sure like it wasn't something that you got to give people an exit. Like for sure, you got to give people to save face. And that's okay. Everybody needs to save face once in a while. It doesn't make it bad, so just give them a bit of an exit. The message, what you're trying to get is to pass the message through. As long as the message went through, you're good. So start with that, practice every single day, a little bit at a time when you're ready. At the beginning, I used to set goal where I started off with stranger, like, some stranger that I don't care, I'm never going to see again, that did something like, they went in front of the line before me. And it was the hardest thing, just tapping them in the back of the shoulder and going, excuse me, I was here first. And God, it was just that simple, but I would have like heartbeat and everything.
It takes everything.
Yeah. So start with strangers small impact, like people that don't make you like your heartbeat and you feel like you can't think straight. Start with something very simple and keep your expectation low. I want to
Yeah,
be
good
able to
advice.
also, yes, I want to be able to touch base on something else that you had mentioned as well. You had said, because you had said it already, like listen to your feeling when something doesn't feel right. Definitely listen to it. And I think it touched base on the fact on intuition as well. Like when you have a certain intuition, learn to listen to it, right?
It's not easy.
Mhm.
It's so not easy, but it's in my personal experience, it's happening. It's just way after when everything is done,
Yeah.
I realized that, oh, many years ago or this time
Yeah.
I should have. I knew it. I knew it, but then I didn't listen to it.
Yeah.
So it's really important. It's a progress. It's a full life.
Yeah.
Like it's a full life work, but it's something that if you at least acknowledge yourself,
Mhm.
you're just getting better and better if you trying to listen to it more and more. But definitely it's not easy. So but that nudge is really important though. When
Mhm.
you realize there's one, you need to sit down and listen to it, write it down, trying to get everything out of your head
Mhm.
and see what's wrong. But definitely that's intuition is something. It
Mhm.
is something. And for now, from now in my life,
Mhm.
even though I didn't listen to them back then, when
Mhm.
I look back in
Yeah.
retrospective, I was never wrong on it.
Mhm.
Like I
Yeah.
didn't listen to it maybe at that right moment. It took me time, but that nudge was never wrong
Yeah.
until now. So
Yeah.
I guess that at some point my intuition can be good. It's just that I need to be able to listen to it faster. I'm getting faster at it, so
Mhm.
it's better.
It's
But yeah, that
everything.
nudge is important.
Yeah, and everything is a work in progress. And that's why I'm doing this podcast, is that we're all a work in progress. I mean, some people are at different level and others just starting. It doesn't matter where you're at. Like, and that leads to the other point, the tip that you wanted to bring is never compare yourself to other people, which I find it's amazing. Such a hard thing to do, but a very important point, especially when we're talking about being women in the men business place. So by learning to voice your opinion, it's gaining the confidence that you need in order to succeed in a man's world, to succeed in any kind of platform for sure. And learning to listen to your intuition, which always seems to know what is the right thing because it picks up on the subconscious, it picks up on cue that your eyes doesn't see, but it detects,
Mhm.
it's telling
Yes,
you, ooh, I detected something that's not working here.
it's not good for you. It's not good for you.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's when you need maybe to run out a little bit, but
that's it.
but
But
definitely comparing yourself, it's something that it's unavoidable. It's just some, and with the social media too. So
yeah.
I'm not really into, I'm on social media, but I'm not into the comparison at all and
Yeah.
everything. But, I have goddaughters that are teenagers or cousins, and I can see that how it could affect them. I'm really glad that I'm not in those generation where the social media is so strongly um, in
Available,
their,
yeah. And
yeah, exactly.
mhm.
And because it must be really hard. It's a natural thing to do already with the people around you, but now you get to do it with the whole world.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's really really hard on, so that's mostly on the appearance maybe, or the lifestyle. But
Mhm.
then on the other side, comparisons where sometimes when you say that people are not all at the same um, level on those intuition when we were talking about. So I have friends that are more there than where I would like to be on the side of personal growth and everything.
Mhm.
But maybe, I don't know, with their upbringing, they started already much higher too. I
Yeah.
don't know. So it's just that I kind of look at that and I'm like, I wish I would be there. I would be already at that level of personal growth or self-confidence or
Mhm.
whatever. But the thing is, like, you're on your own journey. You just need to know that if you're in action in your life, that's what I believe, at least when you move in action and you're acknowledging all of those nudge, intuition, or whatever, everything for yourself for in a sane way to be authentic.
Yeah.
You just need to trust the process, and you will get there at some point. It's not a competition. It's just you need to learn it somehow as well. It's just not something that would get to you on a silver platter. So there's work behind that. You just need to get into action in where you want to be. And I believe that you will get there at some point.
Yeah. And I think that's really good because when you're saying staying focused, which is what you're trying to get at, right? So not comparing yourself to other people, which is really hard for some people to do. I think for most people struggles with this. Because we always kind of like, oh, I wish I could be, like I'm doing this podcast now. I'm like, oh my God, I wish I could be over there. But luckily for me, as I had some practice, and also I'm not one who likes to compare. Like I kind of like my uniqueness. Not everybody's gonna like it, but that's okay. But I kind of like being with me. So I like doing me, like,
So I get what you mean. I get what you mean. I get what you mean. It's just that when I was younger, I was in that neighborhood where there's not a lot of immigrants. So I wanted so badly to not be different.
Yeah.
But then I really learned to embrace it, where that I got that mix of culture and everything. I like that uniqueness in myself as well. It's the same thing. It makes you special, it makes you different, and you have something else to offer also. It's just
Can you speak a little bit about that? Like it's really interesting because I want to hear about it. Like me, I'm a mixture. Like I came here at the age of 9, so I have a lot of Asian culture, just as you have as well. But that mixture, that contrast of growing up, like, being born here but having a lot of like Asian value from your parents, and yet being exposed to a lot of kids who are not like from your background. Like how was that like?
For the first part until I don't know, around 10 maybe. So that part I compare myself a lot. So I was more in the neighborhood that were less immigrant there. It was more special. Like we were special. And I grew up with a lot of family around. It was kind of a little community. So my first language was Vietnamese. I was at home, and my grandma was there. My great grandparents were there. So I didn't speak French to start with. I think I started to learn maybe at 4 or something like that. So I was really late at school. I didn't go to kindergarten or something. So I was, it took me time, and I wanted so bad. Like when we eat, we were 10 around a table. It took 2 hours to eat, everybody, and discussing and having. But the thing is, like right now, I realize it was precious moments that I got to live, where my friends could just go inside, eat for 10 minutes, and go back outside to play. And they were eating at 5 p.m., which I don't get, because at home we were eating after 6 or something, or way later than that. And we were sitting for 2 hours. So I could not go back out anyway. So it was done for me. So I was really frustrated by that. But with retrospective, it's something that I really cherish. It's good memories. So it's basically like that for a lot of things. That was different, that I didn't want to be that when I was younger, but then it enriched kind of how I grew up. And then at 10 years old, I moved away in the neighborhood that were way more immigrants, way more, with a lot of family around, with big families. And that's when I really realized it was so much more fun to be different. Different. That's where you have different cultures. You learn a lot from each other's also. And then I really embraced that there were so many immigrants around, and people. It's really fun to get to learn about people, their culture, and where they came from, and when they got there, their parents. And most of them didn't speak French properly, but they're all there trying, and everybody's helping each other. It's really fun. So that's where I really see the difference and really embrace more
Yeah.
my side of, of how do you say culture, like how I grew up.
Yeah.
So I really loved it that way. That's when I learned it. Yeah.
Yeah, the dichotomy of the two of them, I find it really interesting as well. Of course, like I have my boyfriend who's francophone, so we have like a mixture of both culture, and also with my ex-husband, he was also anglophone, so I always had like a mixture of the two as well. But I find that there is definitely a difference for sure. I didn't notice it as much. Yes, there is completely a difference. Like I remember when my boyfriend's like friends were moving, I was like, yeah, let's go and help them. Like, call up my friend, we'll all come and join. And it'll be like this big thing where we sweat and we work really hard. And then we'll sit down for, lunch or supper together. And it'd be like a fun celebration. That's what I'm used to. And they're like, no, 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 we don't do that. I'm like, what do you mean we don't do that? Your friend needs help, they can't leave them to move on their own. He's like, no, no, it's because when I need moving, nobody came, like all the friends kind of scattered, nobody came to help. So like when it's their turn to move, like I'm not even showing up. I'm like, this is such a weird culture. Like, I find it strange. And I'm there thinking like, who could do, and then when we wanted to, we were going to buy like different things. And then my boyfriend's friend are building like a deck. And I was like, yeah, let me show up. Like, I'll help you build decks. Like, let me get all dirty. And they're like, no, well, okay. I'm like, no, let me do this thing. And like when I'm having guests, I love hosting, I love entertaining. So when I'm here,
Same.
I let them just sit and relax. And I do all the hosting because I love that when I'm doing it. And they're like, no, you don't need to help, Brie. Like, you don't need to do, no, like, I need, like, when I'm going to parties and stuff, like, I can't just sit and not help with the dishes or not clean, because this is what I was raised with, which is
Yeah.
really, interesting and different. So I try to embrace the two because there is really good stuff from their side as well. Like, one for me definitely is detecting, like, danger strangers. Like me, I'm trusting of most people, so I'm like, I don't have bad intentions, so I would never understand how people could have bad intentions.
Yeah, you would expect people to not have bad intentions too.
That's it. So like,
Yeah.
a stranger would approach me and my boyfriend like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
He looks nice, they sound nice. No, no. I was like, okay. So I'm starting to develop this other detection, like, okay, the radar going off, like, whereas before I was like, everybody's all nice, everybody's all good. Whereas now I'm like, okay, so I like to trust you, but I'm not sure. So I'm picking up these different signs much more faster. But I do have to say that when you are constantly wanting to fit in, which is something that a lot in the Asian culture as well, and other culture, where we have this, where I hear it often when I went to Cambodia, all of my cousin wanted to be, they had their hats on, they're like cover up. They didn't want it to get dark skin because they all wanted to be white, and they would have these cream that bleaches off their face.
I know.
And I was like, what is that? And they would have this like powder on. Like, she was very pretty already, my cousin. And then she would just put this powder on. It's just like this white thing on their face. And then when they take a picture, I was like, that looks so fake. Like, it looked like just a mass of white powder, but they find themselves so pretty. And I can't change that because that's how they were raised in a different culture than I was, And so when I go back, I embrace my dark skin, but it wasn't always the case because I was born in my family where I had the darkest skin of all of my siblings. And so a lot of time I would hear people all the time, like friends of my mother or some other people would always make a comment like, oh, your siblings are much lighter skin than you are. I was like, what is that even? Like, what comment is that? Like, is that even useful or helpful to anybody? I'm like, yeah, okay. And good thing for me is that I'm like this really happy person that doesn't seem to understand.
Yeah. So you're just going on with your life.
Slides off. I was like, that's a really strange.
Weird comment, yeah.
But anyway, who cares?
That's their culture, right? That's true. Their culture there, it's really strong on that. They want to have white skin, and in the same time here, there were that fashion of everybody wanted to be really tan.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's just that there's that difference that you can live there. But when I was younger too, during the summer, I'm getting so dark when I was playing outside all the time that my great grandmother was making that comment to me, was saying that you don't even look Vietnamese anymore, you're too dark, and things like that. It's just really something that they grew up with. It's just in their culture and in what they know. And to me too, I didn't realize what that mean until I knew that or I learned that it was something in their culture in Asia, that white skin is kind of better. It's better.
More, you seem like richer, more educated, more something, you know?
Yeah, it's like a higher status. Like, yeah.
It's a higher status, absolutely. Yeah. And so I understand, like, I never understood when my cousin came here, she wanted an iPhone, like, because I'm sure in Cambodia, they all wanted iPhone, they wanted the brand, they wanted to fit in.
Yeah.
So see, like, you're talking with the worst person, because like, I'm the kind of person who never wants to fit in. I'm like the kind of person who just does whatever. Like even in school, like you always have the popular kid, the geeky kid, the punk rock, and I was always part of the group who are more geeky but didn't quite fit in anywhere. And I always remember that being so interesting. When I'm looking, because I'm like the type of person who likes to observe. And so I observe, and I notice it's very interesting. So I look at the popular girls. I'm like, yes, they are very pretty, and some of them are actually really nice, but they have to keep a standard. So they have to be a little bit bitchy, you know. And I don't know why they have to be like that, because it's unfortunate, because they're very sweet, but they never. People don't get to discover that side of them because they have to uphold this thing. And I was like, that is so unauthentic. Like that is heavy to carry on every single day. So I didn't want to be a part of that. And I would never fit in that anyway. So I couldn't even do makeups and stuff like that. And I had a whole bunch of different pimples. So definitely I'm out of that clan. And then there's like the punk rock. I was like, you know, it's cool. They're trying to express, trying to find themselves, and that's okay. And I respect that. But I was more of the geeky, but didn't quite fit in. And I was thinking to myself, since I can't really fit in any particular group, who said that I couldn't make my own group?
That's good. That's good. That's good. It's so hard as a teenager. Yeah.
So society says, these kids says, but none of them are smarter, you know, like nobody really knows what they're doing. So I'm like, if I listen to all of them, I'm like, but why can't, and that's the funny thing, I don't know where it comes from. I'm like, well, why can't I just make a rule? Like,
that's really good.
Oh, it couldn't apply, you know. Whoever invented this thing, I don't even know who invented. They just kind of follow along and stumble and fit into this thing. So I decided to build my own group, and the people that I like were down to earth.
Yeah, you were already there. You were already there. You know, you were just already there. Like I'm gonna be me. Like
it's really good. Do me. And
so
I'm not the popular group, but at least I got the brains. And you know what? They always say the ugly duckling, when you're young, they grow up to be the pretty duck anyway. So I'm like, yeah, maybe one day. I'm no beauty, but at the same time, I was like, you know, I don't think I'm horrible. I don't see myself as super pretty. When you're young, you have like self-esteem issue. And that's another issue that I would discover for sure, talk about. But, you know, I was always thinking like, you know, the ugly duckling could grow up to be a pretty, as long as I'm smart, I trust myself, I'm good to people. At the bottom line is that I try. I'm good. I try to do the right thing. And so what? I can make my own rule. Who said I can't?
Yeah, that's really good, because you knew really yourself already back then. Because
I was very,
you were really there already. So it's really good. You really had that confidence already. And then you knew who you were then. To me, it was more that I was really sporty. So when I was younger, I was really, my passion for many years was gymnastic. I was doing competition and everything. I was training a lot. I was trained and I was kind of in the sports group.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, I was so small. I was the smallest. I looked like that little girl, while my friends looked like more women. And then I was always that little one, that little nice one, that little nice Asian one. So it was just so bizarre because you're in that group. You're not the most popular in this within the group, but you're the nice one, the nice one that everybody sort of like. And yeah, so it was just, to me, it was there. It was nothing else. Didn't see myself like you, like starting a group or anything, but I could feel that I was different in that group, though. I could feel that definitely. So I was just in that for my whole high school, actually.
Yeah, and that's okay. You everybody wants to fit in because the humanity wants to belong to something. We all want to be loved. We all want to be a part of something. We all want to be recognized. So it's normal, like no matter where you fit in. I think it's just you go through the transition and eventually you realize, okay, like the climb that I have, it suited me for a period, but then I
Yeah.
evolve and now I become something else, and I'm trying to find my source, my grounding of what I'm truly am. So, and that's okay. It's part of the transition. But the one thing I would say to younger generation, for sure, younger people, is when I look at my daughter who, yes, social media definitely doesn't help because, my daughter was saying, like, I have a huge big forehead, and she has the cutest little forehead, but because she sees on social media like the slight little thing, they make a remark. I'm like, oh, it's really hard. It's hard. How do you compete against this? And I often always tell my kid how unique and how special they are and love them in so many ways, because the one thing that I understood, the value that stuck with me for the longest time from my parents, is that they always made me feel safe, whether I'm not the prettiest, the smartest, the sportiest, who's going to lead up to be something really special. They always made me feel love, no matter whether, they'll tell me go for the big goal, but if you don't succeed, they'll always kind of like is there to support me. They got my back. So the unconditional love is so important for children, and definitely for us as well. And I mean, that really helps me to shape to become the confident person that I am today. And I'm not always confident all the time, but there's one thing that I do know for sure, is that internally I'm very solid. Like sometimes, which is really interesting, because sometimes when I'm with other people and in my workplace as well, like they always say to me, like, Ree is the sweetest, the nicest girl, but they also know they can't mess with me because they know like I have like this tough thing inside, because when I do need to speak up, I do speak up, and they know they can't cross a certain line. But which was not the case before everybody stepped on me, and I would always be the yes pleaser. I said yes, I took on load, I had so many work, and I would always messed up in the work because I already have so much and I couldn't say no. I didn't want to disappoint people.
Yes. Same. I understand you. Yeah.
Yeah. And so in the end, I punished myself and I started practicing just saying no, like knowing the boundary. And it starts with little practice. If you can just do it one time, like in a month, if you're starting from so far and you're able to say no to one stranger or anybody as a practice, is already one step in the right direction. So I was super gentle with myself. I always say I'm a work in progress. So if I start today with saying no in a month to one person, that's a step closer. And I remind myself to be gentle. And oftentimes our brain will go, oh, how come you can't just be like that other person? So instead of comparing and putting myself against that person, I align myself with the person. So I go to that person and go, I think you're so great. You have this confidence that exudes. Is there something that you can help me? Can you pass on? Or they become my mentor. They become like a big sister to me. And that really excel my progress in terms of my confidence. I forgot already. Yeah.
That's very interesting. That's very good, though. It's, oh my God, did I forget myself?
It's okay. I forget all the time.
But no, the thing is, it's really good. It's really a good point you're saying, is that we need to be gentle with ourselves, to not be that harsh. We're like, I hold myself to high standard, so it's really easy for myself to just
step up.
beat myself up. That's the word, to beat myself up because I didn't move that fast, because I didn't say no that fast, because I didn't put my boundaries right there when I wanted to be there. So, but it's important to understand that it's a process. Like you'll get there at some point, but the thing is, like, you also get a taste of it when you get to it. You
Yeah.
get a taste of it, and it's just getting faster and faster. Also, it's just
Yeah.
the first step that takes, and then at some point when you're tasting it, you're
Yeah.
liking it, and you're just
Yeah.
continuing it and just
Yeah.
keep doing it. So
Definitely.
it's just a start. It's just a start.
Yeah,
So yeah.
definitely learning to set your boundary is the best thing that I mean, it is the thing that changed. I would say it's the thing that revolutionized my whole life as well. So coming down to learning to set your boundary, and I was going to say my poor husband, my poor boyfriend hasn't eaten supper yet, but
Okay.
he's cooking supper. You might hear a little bit of a sound. But in short, so it's basically learning to set boundary. It is so important because it allows you to love yourself better. It allows you to gain more confidence. It allows you to be connected to who you are. And it allows other people to really see you for what you truly are and respect you for that. So I've learned that when I learn to voice my opinion and I say it in a calm way, and I always say it in a respectful way, those people respect you more. They might not be happy at the beginning that you say it to them, but from what I've learned, that trying to be the nice person all the time and forgiving and letting them step over, and you're thinking, oh, kindness will win over certain things, but in some cases doesn't always work. So I'm thinking like kindness, if I just be kind to them like nonstop. And no, it doesn't work. It's definitely not the fastest route to actually getting respect. Is that you need to be able to speak up, and they might not be happy with you at the beginning, but I can tell you the people who don't really are not happy or don't like me at the beginning is the one that respects me the most.
Yes, that, or that if they don't listen to that, then they're just gonna go away, and that's just good riddance, right? You don't want that. If you're asking for some boundaries and respect, and they don't want to respect that, then good riddance for you.
That's it.
Otherwise, they would stay there and just take advantage of you, and
Yeah.
that's a real thing. I learned that recently in the last years when I was in a relationship with that man, when he was taking advantage of me, not really, in a mean way, but it's just a little bit more because I was kind, a little bit more here and there. It's just taking a lot of my time and energy. And at some point it was just too much for me.
Yeah.
And right now what I'm learning is to get into that new relationship, and I'm so he he might think of me like I'm so strongly on this, but I just want to set my boundaries. I want to be clear on this, and I don't want to let go of it. I'm just not even moving a little bit of the one important to me. Definitely, just because I learn in a bad way where I have that feeling of wasting time a little bit, but at the same time I learn a lot from that, because right now that's where I feel good about it, that I set my boundaries. I feel that it's clear, and I feel that I'm respected in that. So it's really good. It's a good thing. You get confidence out of that for sure.
For sure. And it's self-respect. Basically, that's what self-love and self-respect. So if you are able to respect yourself, you can't expect other people. There's a saying, I'm sure they all heard about it. You can't expect people to respect you if you don't respect yourself. And that's one thing that's stuck in my head. It's like, how can I ask people to respect me if I don't even respect myself? Because every time I can't voice my opinion, I can't say no to them. It's the time when I beat myself. I used to visualize myself beating myself, like like smacking me like in the back, going like, I should have said no, but I was so afraid to hurt their feeling and I didn't have the right word. And so you have to define with keyword, just say, I would love to, but let me get back to you. Let me check my schedule, just as an exit. And then you have time, you come
Just to
back.
give you time. Yeah. Just to give you time.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
you don't
that's a
have to
good thing.
respond right away. So, but find your own way to that. So I want to be able to let you end with this last thing as well as quote, because we can go on for so much and there's so many
Oh my
juicy
God. Yeah, I know.
so
I'm
good.
just going all over the place, but
No,
yeah.
no, not at all. It's good. It's interesting. That's what people need to be able to hear, and especially to the younger crowd as well. It's important because I wish I could have heard all of these things when I was much
I
younger, so
agree.
that I, could
Yeah.
save me some heartache,
Yeah,
over
yeah, yeah.
years.
Exactly. Yeah. I completely agree. Yeah.
So I want to be able to have you I want to be able to actually have you mention with a last quote as well, because I think you're amazing as an individual. You've grown so
Thank
much.
you. Same to you. Same to
Thank
you.
you. You did so
Definitely.
many things and you achieved so much being in the engineer in a world that is really difficult to be a part of, and you kind of like made your place and you've learned to actually hear your own voice and declare that you're here and you're setting boundary, and you're a woman that is well respected. And I think you're doing very well in the workplace, and that's a good example for young children who
Yeah.
are also wanting to maybe be in that kind of domain. So if there's one thing that you can leave people with, like a saying that you follow by or that you try to integrate in your life, what would that be?
So I mentioned it earlier. Is just the one that I learned mostly lately was trusting the process.
Mm,
It just it comes down. I think it's a lot like don't compare yourself or feel that and follow that nudge that you feel is just trusting that process all the time. Don't try to go too fast. Don't compare yourself. So
mm,
if you compare yourself, you want to be there already. Don't just trust the process. Just get there. Be in action to know where you want to be,
yeah.
and just don't try to go too fast. You just need to learn and process all of that. And
Mhm.
I need to trust the process that I will get to where
I know.
I need to be at some point. And all the journey is important. The journey is so important more than for a long time I thought it was really the end the finish line.
Yeah.
But the journey through it is the most important thing to me. So I
Yeah.
think it summarized really well by saying that trust the process. You just
Mhm.
need to go for it and trust yourself in there and trust that the universe is there for the good. So
Yeah. I love it. I think it's amazing to be able to tell this to young kids, and also for us as well, men or women. It's something that I remind myself often as well, is that to trust that wherever you are, in whatever state that you are, whatever you're learning, and however far it may seem like to you, but just know that you're heading in the right direction and that, you're doing your very best. As long as you're
yeah,
putting action in place, you're trying, you're practicing, you can't ask for better than that. So maybe you're not there to where you want to go right away. So gauge, see where you're at, see what you can do differently to excel it, to increase
mhm,
the speed if you want to. But if you're not, if you're gentle and you're practicing self-love and being not so judgmental on yourself and giving yourself permission to fail and to be slower compared to other people, or
yeah,
sometimes you're faster in other stuff, but let's say you're slower, but just saying, it's okay. I'm where I'm supposed to be right now, and
exactly.
everything will work out okay. And that's what I do every day. Like, wherever I am in terms of my career, whatever dreams that I'm working on, for sure, I would like this to be able to grow and like, having expansions and stuff, but we all dreams of those things. And that's great.
Yeah,
It's the journey that really counts. Like right now, I'm having a blast with you. I'm
me
having
too.
such a good time discussing about things about Asian and the two dichotomy between the two world, which I always wanted to explore. But to know that, what, I'm doing something good. I'm celebrating humanity. I'm celebrating you. I'm celebrating amazing people that I get to connect and learn from. Like how much better can this be?
Yeah, I'm
Whatever
so happy
happens.
for you for that. I'm so happy for you for that. Definitely. That's true. As long as you go with love, I believe, and with good intentions to it,
Yeah.
I'm sure that we're on the right path no matter where we want to be. And what's easy if you want to know how the much progress you did, or you do is just easy also to just go backwards a little bit by retrospective of the last year or the last 5 years, where you were and where you wanted to be. So and compare where you are now to
Yeah.
where you wanted to be 5 years ago is
Yeah.
just a good thing to know, also to realign yourself on, am I on the right track? Am I not working that much? Am I not enough into actions? But definitely, as long as you move forward with good intentions, I believe that and you need to be really gentle with yourself, definitely. But
Absolutely.
I'm believing that's a good thing. Go
Thank you
ahead.
so much for today's podcast.
Thank
Honestly,
you.
you are
Thank you to
fabulous.
you.
I love you.
I love you too. Thank you so much for this. It's really great. It was really fun.
Fantastic, and have a great trip when you're going to go for your work for the trip. I'm
Yeah.
sure it's going to be an
And
exciting thing for sure. But we'll definitely keep in touch. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and have a great day or a great evening whenever you're actually listening to this. Bye.